Hey everybody, I'm excited to be here, although I'm a little disappointed I don't have the beers in front of me right now. But this collaboration came about in the early stages of planning CBP Connects, our series of in-person workshops this year. Our first event was supposed to be in February in Norfolk, Virginia, my hometown, and a very underrated craft beer city. But we're now hosting that in September. But needless to say, the collaboration carried on. And what the collaboration came to be was Joanne and I with White Labs were chatting probably fall of 2021 about unique ways we could involve the partner breweries for this. We're talking Makers Brewing, we're talking Elation Brewing and Three Notch'd Brewing Company, all breweries here in Hampton Roads, Virginia. And White Labs obviously produces great yeast, so we had the idea that each brewery could brew the same base recipe with a different yeast strain to kind of see how that turned out and taste them side by side. And the beers have been brewed. The workshop will be in September, and we're here today.
What's awesome is I know the three breweries took the same concept of White Labs Brew Co. Make split batch of recipes. So at White Labs Brew Co. we make a 10-barrel batch. So the same malt bill, the same water bill, the same hops, and we split batch it into two different 5-barrel fermenters and really pitch two different yeast strains to really showcase how much yeast play a role in the beer from just that variable. Michele, would you like to talk about how the recipe got formed and how that collaboration happened?
Yeah, so Andrew hooked us up with White Labs, and we decided on a base style, which was blonde ale. And I think we were trying to do the recipe, and Bob just like shot one out. We were like, let's go. And then we were working on different hops for it, different ideas. And Sarah found the Vista hops that we decided to use, as it was an experimental hop, fairly new. So we thought that would be kind of neat to put it in, because we thought that would be neat to match the experimental with all the different yeast strains and see if it actually gave different flavors, being that was different yeast strains. And we did the same hop schedule on that, and we tried to match the same bittering units. And it was really fun to brew it. Our fermentation went pretty quick, very clean. Really happy with it. We did find that although the Vista hops, they say that there's mango and pineapple, and I can't remember some of the other flavors now. We pretty much got green tea, straight up green tea. And we used a Essex ale strain. It's a vault strain from White Labs that we chose. Traditional kind of English style ale yeast. And it worked really well. I mean, the beer's really clean, very good flavor to it. And it allowed the hops to really come through.
Like you were saying, you were using WLP 022 Essex ale, right? Essex is like British, came from Britain in that Essex region. I'm going to pour myself a beer as well for this. Yeah, what other notes and fermentation profiles did you get off of this beer?
I get a little bit of drying, but I don't get some of the, in other English ale strains where you might get some of a more fruity note to it. I don't really get that at all in here. Like, this would be like, for me, I think it's a great all around yeast strain. It doesn't have anything that's predominant in it. And I don't know if some of that drying is just from the hop flavor, you know, but like I say, like, I get it, it's clean, and I get the, like, I'm having green tea.
Yeah, I totally agree. I feel like the malt bill comes out where it reminds me of like a British pub where it has that like sweetness in the back end.
Yes.
Yeah, so, and really clean, like you said. I'm guessing it blocked out pretty quickly. Is that correct?
Yeah, it did. It did. We reused it 3 more times, and finally let it die on a braggot. But yeah, the flavor's really good, and we used Marisotto malt, and so that gives it a nice, good full malt background. Which I think if we hadn't used something that has more of that body flavor, where if we use something that has like much lighter malt profile to it, I think the hops would have been a little overpowering in this particular beer.
Yeah, like the body, when we poured this yesterday, what was crazy was the body and the head retention of this was outstanding. Like the head on the spear stayed for.
Yeah, it's beautiful lacing on it. It's awesome. I'm really, really happy with this.
Nice, that's awesome to hear.
It's been fun to try Sarah's and Bob's, hear the different yeast in it and compare the strength of the hop flavor and how that hop flavor actually blends with the different yeasts, even though because we used all the same malts.
Yeah, speaking of all the different beers, should we move on to Bob and a bit of his beer of the Golden Road at Elation?
Yeah, so Golden Red, as you can see, it's very, very bright beer. Did kind of take a few extra days to clarify for me than Chico typically does. But once it dropped right, it's a super bright beer. I used WLP09, I think it is, Australian ale yeast. And I kind of found with this yeast through a little bit of kind of fruity esters, really nice, good clean ale yeast, but little hint of fruit in the back end and quite enjoyable, strong fermentation. I repitched it into my flagship West Coast IPA, and that came out really, really well. Happy with that. And I've got an Irish Red Ale that I brewed with it as well that's getting released this weekend.
Yeah, Bob, I loved how you said it's very similar to like the Chico or Cali ale yeast, like WLP001, but it performs like very clean and crisp, but there is that like slight fruitiness that I get like Southern Hemisphere. Once we tasted this yesterday too, we got a bit of white wine characters, like almost like Riesling. That's very like common in like Southern Hemisphere hops as well, where it has
absolutely.
No.
And then I haven't tried either of the other beers, so I'm going to taste the Essex right now. First time trying. And that's a very nice English pub ale kind of thing going on.
Yeah, it's really clean. Like you said, like a lot of the English ale strains will give you a little bit of that fruitiness, but this one does not have any of that fruitiness in it, which I really like. And it's funny, Bob mentioned that he did an Irish Red with it. Our second beer with that yeast was an Irish Red. So it's going to be really interesting to come down and try his Irish Red to our Irish Red, even though they're going to be completely different grain bills, but it's the same yeast.
Yeah, that's the fun part, right? Is there's that third generation of same style of a beer, but different yeast strains, because we could already see the huge difference the yeast strain makes in just the same recipe.
So is that like kind of like white wine or like, I get like almost like a Welch's grape juice kind of thing? Is that from the yeast or is that a characteristic of a hop? Because the hop also says it can give like a grape note to it in some of the write-ups of the Vista hops.
I think it could be a combination of both of the esters being produced from Australian ale as well as the hop. I know when we do use this Australian ale, we do like it in like IPA styles or even pale ales, where it does bring off some of those white wine esters as well to complement the hops.
This is Sarah's. I haven't tried it yet, but I'm going to let her talk about it before I do. I'm not going to.
Yeah. Thank you, Bob. But yeah, let's move on to Sarah then.
Comparison side by side is really fun, really neat.
Yeah.
I should pour some of mine as well. So I used, I don't really know how to pronounce it, but the Bastogne Belgian. Baston Belgian?
Yeah, WLP 510 Bastion Belgian ale yeast. Yeah.
So that's kind of, as Joanne said, it was kind of like the workhorse of the Belgian strains. So it just gave like a really just exactly what you'd expect out of a Belgian flavor. Very peary. Bubblegum comes out pretty strong. So I pitched this yeast when it was at 67 degrees and I let it free rise up to 72. So it's a pretty good clean Belgian. a lot of green tea comes in at the end from the hops as well. So I think the hops paired surprisingly well with the Belgian strain for kind of being an experiment.
Yeah, I totally agree. The hops with the Belgian yeast of like we got banana bread characteristics, as well as the hops really bring out like the tropical note too with this yeast that I did not see with the other yeast, which was very surprising.
Yeah, I think this beer, for me, I think the hops are the best with this particular yeast strain. With the bubble gum and the other fruity aromas and esters, that green tea, I think paired really well with it. And maybe even kind of toned down some of the stronger esters a little bit. But for me, I thought this was like my favorite one for the pairing with the hops.
Yeah, it's so unique because it was a blonde recipe, but
Yeah, now I get that more in the aroma.
we thought maybe it could have been like a crystal Weizen or like some other style where you wouldn't suspect a blonde with the yeast strain to produce those aromas. But yeah, I agree that the hops work really well in this Belgian yeast strain. Compared to some of our other Belgian yeast strains, this one's more mild. You get a lot of that sweet bubble gum, but it's not in your face. It's very balanced.
Yeah, it's more like that banana bread, more in the aroma. But it all pairs so well and blends really well.
Yeah, when I described it to people, I would say it's like a pear honey green tea.
That's a good descriptor.
Yeah.
That's a great descriptor. But yeah, I'm glad all three beers came out really, really well. It's so surprising to see, right? Same recipe when you could have three totally different flavor profiles coming off of just from the yeast strain, right? That was the whole idea behind this collaboration, was just seeing that how much yeast play a role in the overall profile of the beer. One fun thing I want to ask, just because we're everything like fermented and flavor and taste wise, I know Sarah and Bob, you guys have food on your facilities. What sort of like pairings would you do with the food on your site?
So we actually, the day we released it, we have a pizza kitchen in addition to our regular kitchen. And the owner of the bakehouse here asked me what pizza would be good with it. And we decided that something spicy would be good. So we did arrabbiata sauce base with spicy pepperoni and jalapenos. It actually paired really, really well. I had that for lunch the day we released the beer. It paired great, and so we ran like a special side by side with that.
I actually didn't really think of this for this beer because I was focused on, we had a Valentine's Day beer dinner where we were doing pairings with a couple of different beers, but I'm assuming that this beer paired well with all of the kind of like pub style food that we have at Three Notch'd, because I actually had to like scramble and keg off 6 of it to be able to bring a sample because we almost sold out like 3 weeks ago. So I think people like it with like good kind of like the hearty like kind of fried burger type food that people eat at our restaurant. So
yeah, those pairings sound amazing. Michele, would you like to talk about, you guys are unique in having that cigar bar. Do you want to talk about like a pairing with cigar?
Actually, one of the guys did. They paired it more with a lighter, not so flavorful cigars. Connecticut, what it was? Yeah, Connecticut something or other. Because of the flavors with the green tea, if they had like cigars that are very robust, it didn't work so well, but it paired really well with lighter cigars. And then we're gonna pair it with the Girl Scout peanut butter cookie.
Man, those all sound super delicious.
We're gonna do a Girl Scout flight, and that one's gonna go with the peanut butter.
Testing it out, seeing how it works. No,
Devin, I actually have a non-beery question for all the brewers. So you all are obviously in the same couch in the same tap room right now, but had the three of you brewed a beer together prior to this in any way, any sort of collaborations?
Sarah and I have.
They have,
Yeah, and we're gonna be doing a beer.
we have one planned, yeah, coming up in April, for a charity function that I'm part of. So,
Yeah, what did we do?
We
but
did.
not three.
Oh, we did a veterans beer together with like 5 other breweries.
Awesome. Well, I love how it brought everybody together, and we'll bring everybody together once again.
Yeah,
A ton of fun.
one thing I forgot to mention is we were able to analyze all these beers through our White Labs Analytical Lab, and like we got to see all the specs. And what's crazy is like seeing how close all the fermentation specs are within each other, right? The IBUs, like what you guys were talking about, as well as like the finishing gravities. But what's really crazy is just the whole flavor profile. Like sometimes the analytics, which we'll share, don't always reflect the overall flavor of like the differences in what you see in the beer. Did you guys have any questions on any of those like analytics or anything you wanted to talk about?
Like on mine, it showed that there was like, I think 14 ppb of diacetyl in mine.
Mm-hmm. So like usual diacetyl levels are usually
A
like,
lot of those ale strains, a little bit of that, but I don't get any of it in the flavor or aroma or anything.
yeah, usually like flavor threshold for diacetyl is around like 80 to 100 ppb, depending on the style. So all the yeast strains cleaned up very, very well. A lot of like the off flavors you might see were all below threshold in all 3 strains. So that was awesome to see. So all clean, healthy fermentations.
Good, clean beer.
Yep. Feel free to hit us up for any questions or anything. But yeah, thank you again for this collaboration. It was really, really fun.
And White Labs, thank you all for being an awesome partner and help put this together.
This is awesome.
Yeah.